Hey guys, Doc again from Low Budget Massacre, and today I want to talk about 5 great micro-budget films that changed filmmaking. Now by no means is this list a favorites list, but rather more of an appreciation list. I will be posting lists frequently, so stay tuned. Also, if you feel like there should be something specific I talk about, feel free to leave a comment and suggest anything you think I should be doing. Some of these filmmakers went on to do big things. Their creativity and ingenuity helped launch their careers and prove that they can be at the helm of major studio pictures. The dream for most indie filmmakers. 5. Cannibal Holocaust, Ruggero Deodato, 1980. Budget, $100,000. Cannibal Holocaust can be considered the progenitor of the found footage that influenced later films such as The Blair Witch Project. Deodato wanted to represent the Italian media in their search for sensationalist violence, without regard for journalistic integrity. He focused on the events connected to the Red Brigades, which a far-left armed organization and guerrilla group based in Italy responsible for numerous violent incidents. He was influenced by documentary filmmaker Gualtiero Jacopetti. The film was banned in several countries, including in Italy, especially for the violence against animals, the turtle, which was given to the indigenous tribe to consume. For the promotional campaign, Deodato pushed the actors to pretend that they really disappeared, as did the creators of the Blair Witch Project several years later. He was also prosecuted for this reason because initially the authorities thought it was a snuff movie and the deaths were real. The actors had to appear in court to prove that their deaths weren't real. Deodato's name is a great in filmmaking in time where Italian horror and giallo were at their peaks. But it got critical acclaim and great success in some countries, especially Japan. Deodato said their film earned $300 million worldwide. Still, this is not a film for everyone and the horror scene does not recommend it. But it did launch Deodato's career and name recognition. 4. The Last House on the Left, Wes Craven, 1972. Budget, $87,000. Wes Craven was a teacher like Tobe Hooper when he decided to leave his career and pursue his passion for cinema by working in a production company. Here he learned the essential techniques and he met producer Sean S. Cunningham, who financed The Last House on the Left. The film was inspired by Ingmar Bergman's The Virgin Spring and was intended to shock audiences. The majority of the cast of The Last House on the Left were inexperienced or first-time actors, with the exception of Richard Towers, Eleanor Shaw, and Sandra Peabody, who acted mainly in soap opera. The film was shot for 7 days in New York City, Long Island, and in some rural locations in Connecticut. The crew spent a lot of time in producer Cunningham's home. Craven used a documentary style with close-up shots and one-shot takes. The crew quickly shot in a guerrilla filmmaking style and then was forced to leave due to lack of permits. The special effects were handcrafted based on Lincoln's suggestions. For example, the sequence where Phyllis is gutted, Lincoln helped create fake intestines with condoms filled with fake blood and sand. The film had a strong impact, especially for the realistic violence, and initially grossed over $45 million in the USA. But critics were not entirely convinced of its value. Over the years the film became a cult favorite. Wes Craven went on to make major horror films such as The Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream. 3. Absentia, Mike Flanagan, 2011. Budget, $70,000. After some projects that had already attracted critical interest such as the short film Oculus, Chapter 3, The Man with the Plan, Mike Flanagan decided to produce Absentia using the crowdfunding website Kickstarter. The actors were non-professional friends of Flanagan, with the exception of Doug Jones. Flanagan wrote the script in a short time to take advantage of the locations he had at his disposal, mainly his apartment and a nearby tunnel. I remember watching this and being both confused and amazed at what I was watching. Most of the time I am not the biggest fan of these type of horror stories, but Flanagan's ability to tell a story really shines through in this one. Absentia became popular when it was acquired by Netflix. Flanagan's original style immediately emerged in the film, and in a few years he became one of the most important horror directors of today, directing great movies like Oculus and the famous TV series Midnight Mass. 2. Dementia 13, Francis Ford Coppola, 1963. Budget, $42,000. In the 1960s, the most important independent low-budget horror director and producer in the United States was Roger Corman. In his company there were many young filmmakers, actors and producers who subsequently became successful in Hollywood. Many of them claimed to have learned the techniques of filmmaking from him. Before shooting Dementia 13, Francis Ford Coppola had collaborated with Roger Corman on a film as a soundman. At the end of the shooting he was asked to make a feature film in Ireland with the remaining budget. The concept was inspired by Hitchcock's Psycho in the same sort of gothic atmosphere with brutal murders. Coppola agreed and managed to write the story in one night. Corman immediately liked it. Coppola found another financier in Europe who added $20,000 to the budget, and the script was completed very quickly. Most of the American actors in the film were friends of Coppola from UCLA, and the Irish cast members were from the Abbey Theatre and were paid strictly minimum wage salaries. During the filming, Coppola tried to satisfy all Corman's requests by inserting scenes of brutal violence, but there were problems between the two after the shooting of the film, as several cuts and an additional prologue were requested by Corman. The film attracted the interest of critics despite its flaws, because the visual talent of one of the most important directors in the history of cinema, author of masterpieces such as Apocalypse Now and The Godfather, was already evident. Dementia 13 grossed $20 million worldwide, which was a large amount for 1963. 1. Bad Taste, Peter Jackson 1987. Budget, $30,000. Peter Jackson dropped out of school at 16 and started working full-time as a photo engraver for a Wellington newspaper, the Evening Post out of New Zealand. With his earnings, he managed to buy a 16mm camera with which he began to shoot short films. Bad Taste is a splatter comedy about aliens coming to Earth to turn human beings into food. It was initially a short film called Roast of the Day. It was shot on weekends over 4 years. Many of the effects were made with makeshift means. Peter Jackson himself made the masks of the aliens. Weapons were made using recycled aluminum and wood. Tom Savini influenced Jackson, so he made many absurd gory special effects. The initial cost was just around $25,000, but the New Zealand Film Commission helped Peter Jackson to complete the feature film with other fundings. The film was released in many countries after entering the market in the 1987 Cannes Film Festival, and over the years it became a cult movie. Peter Jackson toned down his iconoclastic spirit but kept his attention to every phase and detail of the film, even when he shot in first film of the Lord of the Rings franchise 14 years later. Bad Taste was considered a box office flop at the time, but has since gained cult status. Well folks, there you have it, 5 great micro-budget films that changed filmmaking. As always, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment so I can come with more and better content. Thanks guys.